5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's go. Welcome, everybody. Sorry for that delay, technical difficulties. Thank you for joining. We are live, which means anything could happen and probably will. It already has. I want to just reflect on the moment for now. It's a hard time for a lot of people. I wish you all well and your loved ones, and I hope everybody's holding up okay and hanging in there. We are going elsewhere tonight. I hope to entertain, to challenge, to offend each of you, if all goes well. And to do that, we're going back in time tonight to a simpler time, a more innocent time, before the virus, before Trump, before baby lettuce and athleisure wear. Recognize it? Yes, we're going back to Baltimore, 1976. Hey, Jimmy Carter, this'll wipe that phony country boy grin off your face, you capitalist tool, peanut farming fraud. What do you think? That should get his attention, huh? Well, he's not coming to my office. I mean, what are the odds of that? Baltimore, May 1976. Jimmy Carter is within a couple of primary wins of clinching the Democratic nomination for president. But there's still time to stop him. It was a different time. Politics was different. 1976, it was crazy. A nightmare of a president had just been defiling the office, wreaking havoc on the land, dragged kicking and screaming into an impeachment process which the Republicans sabotaged at every turn. It was a different time. And the Democrats, they smelled blood in the water. But there wasn't an obvious frontrunner. So 15 of them jumped into the race. 15! I mean, you can't make this up. It was a different time. But to me, the point wasn't just to beat the incumbent. I mean, out of this chaos could come real change, a vision for what this country could be. And the Democrats were going to waste it. They were going to blow it by nominating a feel-good, moderate Jimmy Carter. Even if all you wanted to do was beat the incumbent, who says a moderate had the best chance? What about all the people who were going to sit it out? And who were all these undecideds anyway? Like I say, it was a very different time. But I got to say, this wasn't my first presidential rodeo. I'd seen other presidents up close. October 14th, 1960. I'm on a crowded train platform in my hometown, and John F. Kennedy is on a whistle-stop tour of Michigan, and our town is next. There's the train. It's coming into the station. Kennedy emerges from the last car, steps to the railing. He quiets the crowd. Radiant in the sun, he announces what will become the Peace Corps, and I am there. Shall we hear it through the flowery prose of 6-year-old Paul from his journal? A caboose, so cool. But I fear Kennedy's charisma may obscure the neo-colonialist Cold War wolf hiding in the sheep's clothing of volunteerism. I've never been intimidated by famous people. But back to Baltimore. How about Governor Carter? Please hear me out. Oh, that is so wimpy, and he doesn't deserve that kind of respect. He's not coming to my office anyway. What was I doing in Baltimore, 1976? Yes, thank you for asking. I had dropped out of college. It wasn't some sort of gap year to buff my resume for graduate school. I was depressed, aimless, and very upset about where this country was going. I reached for a lifeline, basically. I mean, this guy had met on a trip. He calls me out of the blue, says his roommate's moving out. Would I want to come down from Boston and move to Baltimore? It was that random. And I loved Baltimore. It woke up something in me. By day, I worked in City Hall in the Historic Preservation Commission, cataloging gorgeous old buildings before they could be demolished by redevelopment. But in the evenings, I spent my evenings with my socialist comrades in the Baltimore chapter of the New American Movement, NAM. This wasn't student politics. Now, our leaders were veterans of the civil rights, anti-war movements. They knew how the world worked, saw clearly, thought strategically. They must have been in their late 20s. Our analysis was that the country at this time was not in a particularly revolutionary moment, so we would spend our efforts building institutions of counter-hegemony outside the orbit of capitalist domination, like the food co-op or the health clinic that we helped to start. We were serious about our politics, serious about our socialism, but we knew how to have fun too. I would spend hours on weekends wishing I had a girlfriend, or playing soccer, which is what slow white people in Baltimore did. You know, actually, I've known a lot of famous people, not just presidents. Yo-Yo Ma used to practice his cello in my college dorm. By the way, Yo-Yo has been uploading some beautiful, calming music in this time of the virus on his Facebook page. You should check it out. Yo-Yo Ma was a close friend of my roommate's brother. Around the same time, I sat next to Caroline Kennedy in a class called The Spiritual Quest. You know, nothing really came of it, although I am going to get back to the quest now that I have some alone time. But Caroline, you know, she may not even remember me. But back to Baltimore. It was the Maryland primary, the last chance to stop Carter. You know, we tend to think of politicians as cynical operators, but Jimmy Carter had this kind of naivete about him, like he actually believed that if we were just decent to each other, we would solve all of our problems, like that was some kind of political strategy or policy platform. How naive is that? There was a rumor that Carter would be coming to Baltimore, maybe even to City Hall. You see, the mayor of Baltimore, what a doofus. He was Carter's Maryland campaign chair. He wanted to show him off. So I mentioned it to my friends at the NAM meeting. And most of them dismissed electoral politics as a charade, a distraction from the more important work of building revolutionary consciousness. But a couple of them were willing to talk to me about it. Even if he came to City Hall, why would he come to the Historic Preservation Commission? But we batted it around, you never knew. And we developed a devastating 1-minute critique that brilliantly exposed the centerpiece of Carter's foreign policy, human rights, as a subterfuge, a battering ram to open up capitalist markets in societies where the means of production were still collectivized. I'd hit him with it. See what happened? You know, the butterfly effect. What's the worst? The mayor could fire me on the spot. I could be wrestled to the ground by the Secret Service. I could get on TV. There were only 3 channels then. But the thing is, I needed to get his attention. And that's why the opening was so important. At this point, I'm sure some of you have put down their popcorn, and you're asking yourselves, what did Paul imagine that this this little confrontation with Jimmy Carter was going to accomplish? Accomplish. Do I have to justify my 22-year-old self? I had this figured out, okay? What do you imagine you're going to accomplish by sending postcards to a bunch of strangers in Texas reminding them to vote? What do you imagine you're going to accomplish by carefully rinsing out your hummus containers before putting them in the recycling? It is so hard to change the world. Our little individual actions, they only make sense if they're part of something bigger. I believed that in 1976, and I believe it now. So please, don't ask me what my little confrontation with Jimmy Carter was going to accomplish. This might be my third presidential rodeo. Yeah. May 22nd, 1964. I'm in an intimate gathering of 100,000 people in Michigan Stadium as President Lyndon Johnson gives the university commencement speech. And he chooses this moment to deliver the Great Society speech, unveiling the war on poverty. And I'm there. That's right. I'm right up there, sitting next to my childhood friend, Waldo. Shall we hear it through the purple prose of now 10-year-old Paul from his journal? See, 1964. 100,000 people. I can't believe everyone else seems to have bought this. It's a classic case of ameliorative co-optation, the iron fist of capitalism hidden in the velvet glove of handouts to the poor. Tell it like it is, huh? Back to Baltimore. How about, listen up, Jimmy Carter. That has possibilities. It's direct, has some gravitas to it. And it turns out he is coming to City Hall. Well, why not the Historic Preservation Commission? His wife is into that. I'm going to punch up my little 1-minute critique with some economic analysis. which actually reminds me that I took a couple of economics classes with Benazir Bhutto. Yes, that Benazir Bhutto. What is it with our fascination with famous people? I sent out this invitation. I heard back from so many of you with a story. I picked up Mitch McConnell once when I was working Uber in DC. Well, you had your chance, didn't you? And how many people could possibly have a cousin whose hairdresser went to Sunday school with Beyonce's little sister? Hey, what is up with this? Do we secretly all want to be famous? Are our lives that small? Maybe it's a product of evolution. There was some survival advantage to being known out there on the African savannas 300,000 years ago. Maybe. But you want to know what I think? No? Well, too bad, because I'm kind of in the driver's seat here. I think it's an ego thing. Yes, it's somewhere in here. You imagine that your association with the famous is going to make you look better in the eyes of others. That's you. You see, I've conquered my ego. In fact, this piece isn't even really about me. This piece it's a story of speaking truth to power in dark times. It's a story to elevate. It's a story to inspire. But back to my economics classes with Benazir Bhutto. Oh, God, I had a crush on her. Oh, she had this certain je ne sais quoi that I guess you get when your father's the prime minister of Pakistan. She had a very attractive platform as a secularizing Muslim socialist. And after college, she returned to Pakistan, survived and endured multiple imprisonments, exile, only to become the first woman ever elected as head of state of a majority Muslim nation, all by the age of 35, which I guess is why I never heard from her. Benazir Bhutto was assassinated in 2007. I know these brushes with fame can be tiresome, annoying. But just one more. My third cousins, by blood, I'm not talking about in-laws here. My third cousins are Jonathan and Peter Borwein. Yes, as you know, they once held, actually twice held the world record for calculating the most digits of pi. 4 billion. Oh my God. That's one hell of an algorithm. We used to go bowling together. Oh, pretend you've never heard of them. Well, back to Baltimore. I'm going to stick with, listen up, Jimmy Carter. And it's time to decide, because word is he's in the building, somewhere between the coroner's office and animal control, one floor down. And I am ready for him. You know, the thing it is, there was no way I was going to vote for any of these Democrats back then. In November 1976, I cast my ballot for Peter Camejo. Yes, Peter Camejo, the Trotskyist candidate of the Socialist Workers' Party. Doesn't anyone take American history anymore? You know, Peter Camejo, back in 1976, he was a real socialist before he became a renegade Castroist, of course. When a real socialist tosses around the word revolution, they're actually talking about a revolution, not about putting on a tie and fighting to get called on by the moderator in a televised debate with a bunch of establishment stooges. No, you see, a real socialist understands that real socialism is not going to come about through an election, because a real socialist understands from history that power must be taken. It is never willingly given. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare anybody. You know, Peter Camejo that fall, he got 90,000 votes out of 81 million cast. As I said, American elections are a distraction from more important things. I mean, who cares who's president? Ooh, that was a different time. And suddenly, there he is, in the hallway outside my office. It's Jimmy Carter. This is happening. The grinning candidate, his sickeningly sweet wife, Rosalind, the doofus mayor of Baltimore, and a single bored Secret Service agent. They peer into my room. They turn, and they walk right into my trap. It's good. That night, at the NAM meeting, I wonder if my comrades are going to ask me about my day. I fidget through a long and fierce debate over which revolutionary socialist faction we're going to support in the struggle for Zimbabwean liberation. Would it be ZANU, the Zimbabwean African National Union, or perhaps ZAPU, the African People's Union? This wasn't the bullshit charade of American politics. No, this was a real choice with consequences. This was socialist revolution. In the end, by a resounding vote, we threw our support behind ZANU. Or was it ZAPU? We went on to the next item. Paul, did Carter come by your office today? Do you have a report? Much later, some other night, like tonight, I would be able to tell the truth about what happened that day. How Carter had walked into my office, approached me, looked me in the eye, extended his hand, how my heart had raced and jumped to my throat, and how I'd given it to him. Honor to meet you, sir. But that night, at the NAM meeting, I had nothing to say. Okay, no report, Paul. Let's go to the last item. How are we going to get these hippies who have taken over our food co-op to let us talk about socialism? It's like it's a dirty word. Who's got an idea? Thank you so much for joining. I hope you enjoyed. Sorry about the late start. I'd like to thank my good friend Doug Dunderdale for his technical help and the loan of a lot of equipment, and my anonymous slide changer, my sheltering in place partner, Linda Dolan. Stay safe, take care, everyone, and thanks again.